Good morning, everybody. Dave Neal here with a special bonus episode of the Rush Hour Podcast, May 3rd, 2025. Happy Derby Day. Maybe you're sipping on a mint julep, watching the Kentucky Derby, but we got a lot of content to get into today, specifically revolving around Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. I'm going to share the breaking news that the Wayfarer Foundation is calling it quits. Now, could this be for liability reasons? Maybe they don't want their foundation to get sucked dry because of the pending lawsuits, and I'm not really sure. Maybe they just realized that it's pulled attention away from their cause. I'm going to read their statement, which we have right here, and I'm also going to share that Taylor Swift has officially been subpoenaed, so says sources, and a couple other stories involving what Blake Lively is doing to flood the zone, as it were. Let's start with this tragic story. Ashley Brianna Eve said, "This is heartbreaking, the fallout of fake allegations. So many people impacted, including those supported by the foundation." So this was just posted by the Wayfarer Foundation. And again, the Wayfarer Foundation is the foundation that Justin Baldoni is I believe, a co-founder in, along with billionaire Steve Sarowitz. They share the same faith, the Baha'i religion, and sort of try to practice what they preach, which is helping others. And of course, with his deep pockets, he's been able to do that, not just in the feature film world, but also through other means. Here's what they posted. Wayfarer Foundation. Over the past 4 years, Wayfarer Foundation has supported dozens of grantee partners in fulfilling their missions. I'm so incredibly proud of the impact this organization has made and deeply grateful for our staff, board, donors, and partners. Upon unanimous decision of the board of directors today, we will begin the process of sunsetting the foundation. We will honor all of our current grant commitments as we carefully wind down operations over the next several weeks. Although the Wayfarer Foundation is closing, my personal commitment to giving remains strong, and I'm dedicated to making an impact on society through the ongoing missions and work. We understand that this news may come as a surprise, and we will be actively working over the next several weeks to ensure all matters are concluded with care and attention. With gratitude, Steve Sarowitz, founder, Wayfarer Foundations. So this, of course, has a rippling effect for all the people that didn't have grants, but maybe they were in line to get the next grant, or they were being supported in one way or another. So it's a tough loss. The collateral damage to this ongoing court case. Now, does that mean that they are hemorrhaging funds and they don't have quite enough money? As Blake Lively revealed in her court document, Steve Sarowitz said he would spend $100 million if he needed to defeat Blake Lively. Well, it might cost more than that when you think about it. It might cost upwards of 6 figures a day. I really don't know, but there are teams of lawyers going through all of the interrogatories, the motions, all of the depositions and things like that. Now, luckily, the Justin Baldoni camp has the resources of a lot of dedicated people online. But the question has been asked, is the internet becoming toxic? Now, I know the quick answer is yes, it happened a long time ago. The internet is a toxic place. It's a place where people come to find like-minded individuals that can share everything from recipes to, Dungeons and Dragons strategies. I don't know. It's for everybody, but it's also for toxic people. And if you're not a toxic person, this isn't for you. Now, I had someone on my podcast yesterday, I made a joke about boomers. And whenever I make a joke about boomers, a boomer, which is people born between the years of 45 and 65, I believe, something in that range. And then, of course, it always ends up with a boomer messaging me saying, "Why are you disparaging to boomers? We're not bad people." And it's like, well, if you're not a bad person, it's not about you. As a comic, we generalize, and in life, we generalize, but not everybody's bad. Not everybody on the internet is bad. Not all boomers are bad. It just so happens that our government is right now controlled by a lot of boomers who, aren't exactly passing the wealth on to my generation. Okay, but that's not the point here. No more boomers in my DMs, please. One of the laws, the 4 agreements, is if try not to take offense to things. I know it's hard. It's not easy, but try not to take offense to things. But there are toxic people online. And there are toxic people that are following Blake Lively, and there are toxic people that follow Justin Baldoni and support either side. It's almost like a horseshoe. We always talk about the horseshoe model, where most people are somewhere in the middle, where they're like, look, I want the truth to come out. And I want justice for whoever is the victim here. And a lot of people believe that to be Justin Baldoni. In my case, I believe where I stand right now that Justin Baldoni is the victim. But that doesn't mean that everything I see Blake do is strategic and weaponized. I mean, she is a mom, it's like she has kids and she has a life. And I know this is hard for a lot of people to believe, but I have compassion for people, even those that are struggling, like somebody like Blake, who may be using her power to target and harass and bully and all these other things, right? I still have grace for them. And that's what's hard with grace, right? It's like, how can you, to fully have grace, you have to have it for people that wouldn't give it back to you. You have to have it for people that might actually throw you under the bus as well. I feel the same way about Laura Owens in the Clayton Echard case. She literally tried to sue me for $100 million. She called the FBI on me. And I still, with that, feel bad for her for the life that she has and the delusions and all of the other things. So I say all that because I got a couple other tweets to share of Ashley Brown Eve. I got to get her on the show because I really, really mesh with, I think, her ideology. She said, I genuinely have a concern for the way the movement has shifted over the last couple days. It is reminding me more of vengeance rather than justice. I don't even believe this shift is what Justin would want. Now, and again, not to generalize everybody, but there are people online that will be so pro one side that they might do something that makes that side look bad. You see this with rioting when it comes to like social issues, right? It's like there's always going to be someone who's got to throw the brick through the cop car, and it's like, dang, we had a good point, and now they're shutting it down, martial law, because you had to throw a brick, right? So there's always going to be someone metaphorically throwing bricks online, and with that, look, and by the way, I am not calling out content creators or anyone specifically. There's been a lot of chatter online about my pals, the lawyers that are covering this case, because they strategically thought that Blake Lively's sham lawsuit was a smart move, because I feel like lawyers are so good at looking so specifically into the what's legal, what's illegal, and what strategies on the chessboard one might use. If I'm playing chess with you and I have a real genius move that I do to win, you're not going to go, oh, you're going to go, wow, well played, good move. And I feel like that's what lawyers do. And maybe the lawyers aren't good at pulling back and look at the humanitarian side of things or the graceful side of things. But in this case, I don't think they did that at all. I think they're just lawyers that are trying their best to analyze it. But of course, that leads to hate online when it comes to people criticizing what they think about that. I've seen this with Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, where both sides wanted to criticize me. I've been criticized from the left, from the right, from pro this, from anti that, and on and on. And I'm not blaming people if they just want a community to hang out in and be on their side. I think we just have to continue to challenge ourselves whenever it feels like it's going so far in one direction to say, okay, I agree with Ashley here. She says, I don't think this is what Justin would want. Justin wanted Blake to not receive the hate from others. He also didn't want the one to get blamed for the hate. Of course, he is getting blamed for the hate as she's suing him, thinks there's this giant smear campaign. So anyhow, Ashley talks about psychological principles that Blake Lively has utilized when it comes to marketing herself. I just find this really fascinating. I want to share this, and then I'm going to share how Ashley talked about flooding the zone. She's got her own YouTube channel, so go check this stuff out if you don't want to hear me replaying it right now. But again, it's not to share how Blake Lively might have strategies she's using effectively isn't to dismiss that it's rotten to fake a claim about somebody else, right? I always say we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but that's really what it comes down to, is going, all right, we're watching this play out. There are these time periods between the depositions and the bombshell court documents where these are the time periods where content creators can really overanalyze what's going on here, and not in a way to just completely smear one side. Like Blake Lively, I struggle with what I think about this, and I shift every day. I think to some degree, a personality type like Blake Lively may not believe she's telling the truth, but she may believe she's in the right and therefore is entitled to lie. Does this make sense? Now, I'm not condoning that whatsoever, but I relate it back to Laura Owens in the Clayton Echard case, where I go, she knows she's not pregnant. She bought a fake pregnancy bump. She faked her pregnancy evidence to me. So we know she knows she's not pregnant, but she feels she can live out that lie because she's been scorned and rejected in X, Y, and Z. So for Blake Lively, what might it have been that led her to believe she could bend the truth in her direction to commandeer the rights to the film or whatever she was trying to do, get final edit of the film. What was that belief? Now, she might, and this is insane to think, right? But Blake Lively might think this. She might think, and again, I'm not saying this is right. We're just having a nice rainy Saturday where we analyze this and wait for the Kentucky Derby to start. Blake Lively might think Justin Baldoni was ruining this film. This film is important for survivors. Therefore, anything I say and do to get control of the film will be worthwhile because I'm going to save it. It's like that savior complex, right? We see this a lot in politics where people are like, all right, we can just abandon the Constitution because we're doing the right thing and the country no longer can survive without bending the rules. Now, that's wrong, but I think that's what people think. So here we have Ashley. She's going to share what she thinks are some... Hold on one second. Here's Ashley and what she thinks Blake Lively can do with some, or what she is doing with some psychological maneuvers to sort of gain control of her PR.
I've seen a lot of people say that Blake Lively's dress at the Another Simple Favor premiere that they had this weekend, I think it was last night, really stood out as if she was overdressed compared to everyone else. Now, whether her team did this on purpose or not, I'm imagining it was on purpose. There's a psychological principle behind it.
Tell us.
And it is salience bias, a psychological tool used in branding and marketing. And salience bias is going to arise from unexpected contrast between something. It can be a box of cereal and competitors, or it could be a person and how they're dressed versus who's around them and how they're dressed. But there's a contrast that's involved. And whether you like Blake Lively or not right now, attention with their flood the zone marketing and PR tactic they're using is the goal. So you noticing her in a lineup, her standing out in a lineup is the goal. So the idea is standing out, getting your attention, and that impression is going to stay with you longer. Now, the fact that she did look beautiful. I know people are nitpicking over her tan coming off. I mean, guys, there's a lot you can nitpick on. Does the tan have to be it? But she looked beautiful. The dress was stunning. And let's just be honest, she's a beautiful woman. And so you look at her and you see how stunning she looks in this dress. She naturally stands out. She naturally draws your eye. And those positive feelings of like, wow, she looks beautiful, translate over to your impression of her subconsciously. In fact, research shows that if someone or something stands out due to their actions, personality, or appearance, this could lead us to overestimate their positive qualities and assign them a more favorable image.
This is amazing. So salience bias, I love learning about this stuff. You know, there's a lot of psychological tricks when you do stand-up comedy, when you get on stage, where sure, you have to be competent and likable. You know, those are the key traits to anybody trying to sell you anything, competence and likability. Or what you can be, if you're super competent, you don't have to be likable. If you're super likable, you don't have to be that competent. But it's the idea that you're going on stage on a raised platform with the microphone and the lights shine at you, that you build this brand of believability. And you can kind of see that going on with Blake Lively walking the red carpet by not doing Joe Schmo's podcast, by keeping it to corporate media, by doing late night TV where she's got the makeup artist and the key lighting kits. I mean, I look like a gosh dang monster when I don't have these lights turned on. Okay, I'm 77 years old, but you put a couple LED lights in me, I look pretty good. Blake Lively's already really attractive. Then you combine, like she said, the sort of like glamming herself up, being overdressed versus underdressed, and you know, say what you want about her. People will nitpick, like she said, and say, well, she's not that attractive or she's had work done. Who cares? She's a full-blown celebrity. For, you know, and people might say, no, she's not an A-list. Whatever. It's true. We know her name, right? Maybe this has made her even more famous. Now, does that mean she's going to have longevity after this? That's another subject. But clearly her movie's performing well. A Simple, whatever the hell it's called. Simple Plan? That's somewhat emo music. Anyway, Simple Favor too, right? It's performing well. And she'll survive regardless. But I do find this interesting to see the techniques she's using. And again, you might say, well, the star actress is always going to have this salience bias. They're always going to be the one that wants to dress better than everyone else. Look, I remember not only Blake Lively, my wife stood in on Gossip Girl, and I've worked on Gossip Girl. And you see these scenarios where, like, my wife's was a working model. She's since retired. But you'll see when you're on set, the A-list star doesn't necessarily want to be next to a good-looking person because they need to be above the fray of what they're around. That's the sort of the way the camera pulls focus to something else. Like if you're working on a movie, like I wouldn't wear a bright colored shirt if I'm in the background. They would put me in drab and things that just don't stand out because they need to train the eye to what it needs to see. And I guess that's what we're seeing on the red carpet is by training the eye towards Blake Lively, by making this moment with her press person, Leslie Sloan, coming in and having this entourage, it does create this sort of royal majesty type of thing, whether people like it or not. I kind of feel like this video might be pissing some people off because people might think we're praising Blake Lively, but you have to be able to separate analyzing things versus condoning them, I think. And it would be a very boring and short video if I was just like, Blake Lively bad, end of story. It's like, sure, right, we're going to let that side of things play out in court, but we're also going to see how does a celebrity try to navigate their way out of terrible PR. And trust me, this is about as bad PR as you can get. This is crisis PR 101. This is essentially like Jussie Smollett level, PR in the pop culture celebrity world. Here we have last clip from Ashley. Sorry, Ashley. I'm a real fan of the competence and likability that you have here. You deserve way bigger of a following. So I'll have to make sure we can get everyone. I don't have, let me see, let me look afterwards for your YouTube channel here. But I wanted to play this clip, and this is the marketing strategy we've seen. Now, this video is a couple days old, but I earmarked it for a weekend content because Ashley Brianna Eve is discussing the flood the zone technique. We hear a lot about this right now in politics as Steve Bannon is talking about what the Trump administration is doing with flooding the zone. Now, in the Trump administration, they're flooding the zone with a ton of executive orders and new news stories every single day, and they want you to see a photo of Trump as the Pope to maybe pull attention from something else, and it's meant as a way to overwhelm people so that they don't really take action to what's going on. That's what flood the zone is meaning politically. I think flood the zoning is slightly different with what Ashley's talking about right now. Let's have a listen.
Does it feel like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are everywhere right now? Well, this is their new PR strategy, which is called Flood the Zone. My name is Ashley Brianna Eve with over 15 years of experience in the branding and marketing space. I'm going to tell you the psychology behind what they're doing. Flood the Zone is very different than what I talk about frequently on my YouTube channel, which is SEO manipulation. With Flood the Zone, you are looking for max exposure, not just on Google, across all platforms. If you feel like you can't get away from Blake and Ryan right now, that is the point. There are 3 psychological principles that Flood the Zone PR tactics focus on, which one is salience bias, number 2, exposure effect, and number 3, cognitive load. Salience bias talks about
cognitive load. That sounds that sounds like something. So she talks about saliency bias, which we just heard about. So let's skip past that. And by the way, Ashley is on Instagram. On YouTube. 9,130 subscribers. I'm going to post a link to her YouTube. I think we could get her to 10,000 subscribers today. I'm going to reach out to Ashley and see if she wants to be a guest because I got a ton of questions to ask her here. But do her a solid. I mean, this is really good information she's sharing out there. Let's try to continue to platform these experts who have good things to share.
Especially if it's combined with things we genuinely like. For example, Wrexham. If you have a positive association with Wrexham, which, I mean, let me tell you, if you're in a PR crisis, buying a sports team, chef's kiss, especially an underdog one, chef's kiss, so good. But you have this positive association with Wrexham, for example, and now they're exposed over and over Ryan Blake with Wrexham. You start to develop positive associations with them. Number 3, it focuses on cognitive load, which essentially means...
Yeah, by the way, that's like Wrexham was this underdog team that they bought. So I totally understand that. Wrexham, they're like the bad news Bears, right? They were this terrible team in this real blue-collar town that really needed to be injected with some life force. They bring in top-tier talent. They spend a little bit more on the team. They redo the field. And the next thing you know, the team starts winning. I mean, it's a really great story. It's like a Disney-made story. But with that said, the Blake Lively story, at least involved with Justin Baldoni, is one that could be, if all of the allegations about her are true, a story of really weaponizing her power. I mean, it's a disgusting story, right? So it's like, it makes our mind struggle because if you've watched Wrexham and only know Ryan Reynolds through that, He's pretty likable on that. The guy's like a hero over there in Wrexham. So it's, for them to have that equity of, so that charitable equity is very good. That cachet is good for them.
You flood people with so much information that they stop critically thinking about it and they begin to accept it as truth. Flood the zone marketing and PR tactics are very well known in political circles. You're going to see this very frequently with politicians in big time crisis for celebrities, public figures like Blake and Ryan. But it's not just throwing anything at your audience. It's going to be an overload with a very specific purpose and a very specific effect. Simple way to do this with branding is if you're launching something new. You might see a tech company, for example, all of a sudden they're releasing ads, retargeting ads, especially influencer partnerships, press releases. They're on every magazine or they're featured in every magazine. Like they just seem to be everywhere at once. And if you're a smaller brand that is using this for your own branding, your own marketing, how you can utilize this is release content across multiple channels, multiple platforms to maintain top of mind awareness. And if you do have the budget for ads, retargeting ads is how you're going to want to do it. And if you're looking for help doing this within your own brand, I do have brand VIP days that are available within May. I also have consulting options, and you can email support@ashleybrandandeve.com to discuss what works best for you.
This is so good. This is exactly what they teach you to do with the internet. So I'm going to use, Ashley right here is using the sort of flood the zone techniques to explain marketing about Blake Lively. I'm going to use her to explain how you need to do the internet. She knows what her skill set is, right? She knows what her skill set is, talking about SEO, a 7-part path to wholeness. She's got all, and again, I'm not trying to put her on the spot. I'm just saying this is great. The internet, you succeed when you give people something and then a call to action to do some more. So I think it's great. I want to interview her, and I'm going to post a link below so you can go chat, check out her YouTube. Because she's got clearly more to talk about and a good opinion on things. In other news, just real quick, I wanted to share a couple other things while I have you. This was another thing that didn't really warrant its own video, but I wanted to share from Team Justin Baldoni subreddit. A text message that appeared in the New York Times article, but didn't appear in the complaint. Now, why is this important? The text message itself isn't that important, but it just goes to show more evidence that the New York Times had a hold of Blake Lively's personal complaint and wasn't waiting on the complaint to be filed. Like they had the text messages before the complaint came out. So, again, and it's the actual text message is almost not as important. The text here says this text message never appeared in the CRD complaint, which leads me to believe they got all the messages beyond what was in that complaint, which is an even bigger invasion of privacy. They must have seen that sham subpoena. Difficult to believe that they aren't complicit. Yeah, the New York Times is for sure complicit in the sense that now I doubt they're going to get charged with anything. I doubt their case will even go to trial, the defamation case, but it just goes to show that they did a bad job. They did a bad job of trying to get both sides of the story. In other news, speaking of getting both sides of the story, Taylor Swift has been subpoenaed by Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman. Taylor Swift, almost certainly the most powerful woman in show business, has been dropped center stage into the whole unsolitary mess, served with a subpoena by Baldoni's lawyers. After weeks of rumors that it was coming, the subpoena has been issued, compelling Swift to submit to an interview by Baldoni's Street Fighter lawyer, Brian Friedman, under oath, never a pleasant experience for anyone. Also, that subpoena most definitely will be, that deposition, if they go to a deposition, will most definitely be on video. Of course, it costs an extra couple bucks, but who's going to, come on, no. These depositions, you have to see where their eyes move. You got to read them like a poker match, right? We remember Amber Heard in a deposition lied. She lied and then covered her mouth and looked at her people and it's like bingo. So that's stuff that wouldn't really come out in a transcript. A source said Taylor Swift has now been subpoenaed. Some subpoenas are being sent this week. Some depositions are in the process now of being scheduled. People often push back and say that they can't for various reasons, but you really cannot get out of it. And that's not all. I can further reveal that Swift's boyfriend, the American football star Travis Kelce, will soon receive a subpoena of his own, as will Lively and Reynolds' friend Wolverine star Hugh Jackman. Well, there it is, folks. Now listen, I think I think Taylor Swift, if she is just super honest, I think she'll come off great in the subpoena. In the deposition. I truly believe it. Taylor Swift, as far as I'm concerned, was just trying to help a friend who she believed was the victim of a tyrannical, scummy director. That's as far as Taylor Swift would know. I mean, why wouldn't she believe her friend? Why wouldn't she believe all the accusations? Now, I think what's truly telling is the silence from Taylor Swift. She knows now that Baldoni's side has a lot of damning evidence that makes it look like Blake lied and, used Taylor Swift as her dragon to commandeer the film. So again, we'll have to see. That'll be fascinating to watch that deposition. So we got a year's worth of this stuff, folks. All right. Well, I hope you guys all have a great weekend. It's raining over here in Tennessee. So no lawn mowing for me. I guess I'll just have to go to Walmart and elbow a bunch of people as I try to buy some baby goods. That sounds like fun. Again, go check out Ashley. I'll post a link in the description. We like to support people doing good things out there. Be kind to each other. Prove me right that there are more good people than bad out there. And I always remind people this. This might sound silly, but try not to engage with negativity online. I know it's tough. I take the bait once in a while too, but that negativity will always get bumped up to the top because people will always want to combat it. But just remember, everyone's trying the best with the information they have for the most part. And if we live life with a little bit of that optimism, I think we'll be rewarded with more of that positivity. So if you're going out there running your chores today, try to take your eye off your phone for a second. Make some eye contact with someone and smile, especially an older person out there. Gosh, go say hi to, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of having a baby is old people now have a reason to talk to me. They were blowing me off for a while. I was just some stooge. But now that I got a baby, they come up and they all want to touch his feet. We got to put socks on. Don't touch his feet, but you can say hi. Anyway, be kind out there. All right. Have a good one. We'll be back Monday. Dave Neal, this is The Rush.